over at BangTheBook.com. We are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. I've got previews up for you on all 4 wildcard weekend NFL playoff games. Also previews up for all of the remaining bowl games. National championship preview will be coming your way here this afternoon between Clemson and LSU. Daily NHL from Parker Michaels. Daily NBA and college basketball is a group effort over there. We'll have NASCAR when that rolls back around. Golf back this week, but we'll have a preview for you next week for the event. So plenty of stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com. Please make sure you check it all out. Finally, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino. At BetDSI, it's only a game until you bet it. One guest, but a lot of ground to cover here on this December 31st edition of the show. That is Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how's it going today, man?
A decade-ending edition of the Adam Burke Sports World.
Yes, sir. And it just feels like another day because,
although it does it, buddy? It doesn't really. It's funny. This hit me yesterday. How old? You never ask a lady this, but I'll ask you. How old are you?
33.
No, you make me sick. I'm sitting here going. It hit me yesterday. 2020. That's insane. 2020. Yeah. When you're an old guy. I was born in 57. I'm sitting there going, 2020. Just the number. We just every year we get it one day to the next, and we run around. What's the next thing to do? And I don't know why yesterday it just hit me. Oh my God, 2020.
Well, no wonder you're such a cranky old man, then, right?
Yeah, that and about 311 other reasons.
All right, man. We got the NFL playoffs here, and obviously we've bitched and complained and moaned a lot about the NFL season for a variety of different reasons, but we're down to what is supposed to be the 12 best teams in the league, 8 of them in action here this week, including your Buffalo Bills, which we'll get to here in a second. But the coaching carousel, hot and heavy right now in the NFL. It wasn't even really Black Monday. It was more of a Black Sunday with a lot of guys getting fired right away after Week 17. Some guys, Doug Marrone and Dan Quinn, actually saving their jobs, apparently. But a lot of chaos for the non-playoff teams right now in the NFL.
Yep, no, nature of the beast, and the Cowboys soap opera. We'll be watching that. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? At the end of the day, will Jerry Jones ever just look in the mirror and say, "I'm hiring football people, and I'm going to sit up in a box and watch the game"? He won't. His ego won't let him do it. Go all the way back to the 90s, and the Herschel Walker trade got them a dynasty. And Jimmy Johnson knew what he was doing, and then they were so good that Barry Switzer walked in and was even able to hold it together and win. And then ever since that, it's this guy, it's Daniel Snyder, during a game telling Haskins, "Don't go back in. Shut up. Sit in the box." Jerry Jones holds a press conference after every game. Shut up. Let the players talk. Let the coach, let football people run the thing. Yeah, it's worth $1 bazillion and all this. Okay, great. That's what you're good at. Stay the hell away from the football team. He won't let his ego do it.
No, he won't. It'll be interesting to see what happens here with the Cowboys. And, we'll talk here about the Philadelphia Eagles later on in the show. But, that was a pathetic division. And the Cowboys still couldn't find a way to win it. And I don't know. To me, that kind of says something about your ownership style and how you want to have your 2 cents and everything. Maybe it's not working anymore, like you said. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys here as they go forward. But, Brian, we start on Saturday. Game 141, 142. The top AFC wildcard Buffalo Bills make the trek down to Houston to NRG Stadium to take on the Texans. This line has come off of 3, pretty much market wide, sitting out there 2.5, a little bit of extra juice on the Texans side for the most part. Total going up a little bit from 41.5 to as high as 43. How are you seeing this one here with the Bills and Texans?
Well, the number for starters, I was kind of did a double take that, Sunday we're watching the games. I was talking to our friend Chuck Esposito over at Sunset Station, making the opening numbers and stuff. And I thought the Bills would catch 4 in this game, maybe even 4.5, only because there had been a defined lack of respect for them. They caught 6.5 at Dallas on Thanksgiving Day, and then 6.5 at New England, and caught 6.5 at home to the Ravens. And okay, the people just aren't buying it, and people still want to shoot holes at Josh Allen this and Josh Allen that. But what they refuse to acknowledge, although now it's kind of come to the forefront, is this defense is ridiculously good. The thing is that I didn't even know this, Adam, and I'm trying to punch it up here, but I'll go from memory if I can't find it quickly. This was in the Buffalo News yesterday from Vic Carucci. This Bills defense only allowed 25 points in one game. And that was a game that they led 7-3 with 1.5 minutes to go in the first half at home to the Eagles. Allen fumbled deep in his own end. Eagles scored. Eagles got the first possession of the second half and scored again. And it was just one weird, goofy thing that happened. But they're saying they tied a handful of teams. This is from NFL research. In the 80-year history of the NFL, there have only been a handful of teams that have allowed less than 25 points in all but one game. I mean, that's how good this defense is. It's stupid. I mean, this is from NFL research. In the last 80 years, it's a spectacular defense. It's not just a good defense. It's a spectacular defense.
Well, and even with this total going up, I mean, I think my favorite thing about this game is just going ahead and taking Buffalo up to 8.5 with a 6-point teaser, pairing it with a game on Sunday that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But maybe you don't have a teaser option. Maybe you're not comfortable betting teasers. I do like the Bills in this one. I mean, look, if Will Fuller is back for the Texans, that changes everything for them offensively because it takes a little bit of that attention away from DeAndre Hopkins. The problem is Tre'Davious White can play DeAndre Hopkins one-on-one and can have some success against him. Now, we'll see if he actually does, but you could take away Houston's best offensive skill position guy with one player in White. So that makes a substantial difference for Buffalo here in this game. I know Houston ran the football well, but they still need Deshaun Watson to be the guy for them. And one other thing that was really interesting to me here about this game is that this Texans defense, 32nd in yards per play allowed with 6.1. They gave up a ton of yards after the catch. What does Buffalo do well in the passing game? Yards after the catch, because Josh Allen, he's not going to beat you downfield, and he rarely does that, but he can get guys open in space, and then they can make some plays for him. Houston doesn't pressure the passer. They can't tackle particularly well. I think this is about as good of a stylistic matchup as Buffalo could get in the first round.
Well, you mentioned, on the Bills side of it, the key to the game, and I believe it, is Trey White. And all the, Stephon Gilmore this, Stephon Gilmore that. Trey White's done everything that Gilmore's done this year. They're the only difference is, the Bills had Gilmore. Now they've got Gilmore. His name's Trey White, and they're paying him $9 million a year less. And, the Bills defense, they have the luxury of I would think Hopkins will have a big play or two, but for the most part, White will and if they dare, and how do you help but throw it to Hopkins? But White will have the chance to make a big play or two. But the thing is, if that's the case, and Fuller is back and he is a threat, the best thing about the Bills defense, the two guys that get snubbed all the time, Poyer and Hyde are two of the best safeties in the NFL, should be in the Pro Bowl. And if they try to go over the top, you can't beat Buffalo over the top. So I think Hyde is actually the key to the game. If Houston can run it down their throat, that gives them their best shot. I'll throw one little subplot into this game that I think really will come to pass. If there was a prop out there, a player prop, I doubt we'll find it anywhere. But, Allen's done a great job protecting the football. And he said his mindset changed. Instead of always looking to throw the touchdown, now he's looking to throw first downs. He's protected the ball. He's made good decisions. But you know what he's done, Adam? By default, he still has more rushing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson. That's in the red zone. where he'll step up and tuck it and run. But in the regular season, I think they did work so hard on making him a pocket guy, and he does. He stands in there tall in the pocket. But you don't want to get killed over a 16-game season. This is the playoffs. I'm telling you, in this game, I can see Josh Allen tucking it and running like a reindeer in this game. Where are you going tomorrow? There is no tomorrow. I think Josh Allen becomes a real significant weapon with his feet in this game because they're not worried about. I mean, don't worry about next week. You got to win today or the season's over. I think Allen runs the ball a lot in this game, and that could be the X factor in the game.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, Houston doesn't get pressure. According to Pro Football Reference, 31st in the NFL in pressure percentage, 31st in hurry percentage. So
Watt's coming back, supposedly, right?
Oh, is he?
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, J.J. Watt's been working out for 2 weeks and targeted this game.
Well, yeah, obviously that would make a substantial difference. And, the thing of it is, we don't know what J.J. Watt's going to look like if he is able to actually play in this one. So there is that. He's coming off of a torn pec. It's not like it was a knee injury or something like that. That certainly would help them in this situation. But I still think that Allen will have time to go through his projections. And if it's not there, he can take off and run, like you said. And there's very little I like about the Texans defense here. And one other thing I think really could come to fruition here. I know, as you mentioned, people have been down on the Bills most of the year. They've poked holes in the resume. They've poked a lot of holes in the schedule, and deservedly so. The Bills did not play a very good schedule here this year. But I think they've got a very firm coaching advantage here with Sean McDermott over Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien has almost always had the most talent in that AFC South division across both sides of the ball, and they've kind of won it by default. But again, this is a guy that I don't like the play calling. I don't like what he does in terms of short yardage. I don't like how much he runs the football on 1st and 10. That's not going to help against a defense like the Bills. McDermott's done a phenomenal job with this Buffalo team. I think there's a very big coaching advantage here on the Buffalo side, too.
I'll throw one last thing here. You got other games to get to. But I've been clamoring for weeks on social media. Who cares what I say? But the Bills have diminutive wide receivers. They got a kid, Duke Williams, who was a stud up in the CFL. He had off-the-field problems, blah, blah. They brought him in. He's been a good soldier. He looked great in the preseason. Big wide receiver. Jump ball. He goes up. He gets it. And he scores the winning touchdown in the game on the road against Tennessee. Doesn't see the field again the rest of the year. And if Duke Williams was playing in the Baltimore and the New England games, where the Bills had the ball at the 15-yard line at the end of both of those games needing a touchdown, it would have been an option that they had. But when Bills get into the red zone, they got a problem because they're all small wide receivers. So literally the only big guy you're going to get is possibly a tight end, a Dawson Knox or a Croft. But I'm like, play this Duke Williams guy. What are you doing? And I'm praying and I'm hoping against hope. The meaningless game last week, they put Duke Williams in, and the kid has 6 catches for 108 yards. For the love of God, play this kid, and just only for the red zone package. And I hope McDermott does it. I think they have a potential sneaky weapon if they decide to use them.
Well, speaking of weapons, nobody's better at taking them away than Bill Belichick. But the New England Patriots playing on the wild card weekend for the first time since January 10th, 2010, and they lost that game to the Baltimore Ravens 33-14. They were down 24-0 after the first quarter there in that one. Baltimore only had 34 passing yards in that game 10 years ago. And you mentioned, being amazed that it's 2020. The Patriots go about a decade without having to play on the wild card weekend. But this year they do, and they take on the Tennessee Titans. This line has come down a little bit from 5 to 4.5. Total sitting pretty steady at 43.5. But New England, look, everyone thinks that they're vulnerable. Is this a spot where they go down?
I like both wild card. I like both teams on the road here. Honest to God, Tennessee, and it's the most frustrating thing. You want a bad beat story because, believe me, there was some cake involved here. I'm in position to win my fantasy league, which ends in week 16, and it's a little juicy endeavor, okay? And they rest Derrick Henry in week 16. Unheard of. You finish the season in week 16 because you don't want the meaningless week 17 game. They sit Derrick Henry in week 16. Well, he comes back in week 17, and I watch Tennessee all year long, and it's the most frustrating thing. They get it down to the 3-yard line. Henry gets them down there, and then they throw. Well, Tannehill keeps getting it in the end zone. This guy's a beast. Then to get to the fourth quarter of the game and he can win the rushing title. Well, let's give him the ball. And he gets like 100 yards in the fourth quarter, wins the rushing title. He'd had 2,000 yards if they'd have given him the ball more. And oh, by the way, he skipped the game. But they wear teams down with that running game in the second half. And listen, don't sneeze at Miami beating New England. New England wanted that game. This is a flawed football team to play one home game with a chance to then be one game away from the Super Bowl. That's a huge punch to the gut for New England. And this Tennessee team is playing at a high level. Now, can Belichick – let's go back to Stephon Gilmore. Here's the real challenge for Tennessee. How will they make this dial up? Is that Gilmore, the A.J. Brown kid, Adam, he's been the best receiver in football in the last 6 weeks of the season. I mean, there's no joke. I mean, this kid's over 1,000 yards. The light bulb went off. And when teams are putting 8 in the box to stop Henry, this kid's running around like a lunatic. Well, Gilmore's on him. They'll put 8 in the box, and they'll try to stop Henry. Tannehill's going to have to make plays with his feet, and you hope that a Tajay Sharp or somebody else can step up. But, man, the way these guys – you know what they remind me of? They remind me of an 8 seed in the NHL in the playoffs. And it's the one sport where an 8 is so dangerous because they've been playing playoff hockey for a month just to get in the playoffs. Like an 8 can't beat a 1 in the NBA, but an 8 can beat the best team in hockey, a la Columbus in Tampa last year. Tennessee's that team to me.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be had for that. The thing for me about this game, I don't think I like anything about either side here because I haven't trusted New England all year. I've faded them a lot for a variety of different reasons. Some of them have worked out, some of them haven't. I don't think I can take Tennessee in this spot for exactly what you just mentioned. Stephon Gilmore's on A.J. Brown. The other 10 defenders are on Derrick Henry. And what happens with Tennessee in that situation? Are they going to be able to wear down that New England front, run the ball in the second half, come away with a win here? I don't know. I'm playing the under in this game. That's the only way that I can look at this thing. Tom Brady this year, he took good care of the football, only 8 interceptions, but 6.24 adjusted net yards per pass attempt. That was his lowest since 2013. You know what happened in 2013? Rob Gronkowski tore his ACL about halfway through the season. We've talked about this on the show here before, you and I. The adjustment to Gronkowski is substantial, and we've seen it here all year long for Brady. Edelman and White have been great. Nobody else has done a damn thing for this team. They don't have Gronk. They can't open up the middle of the field. I don't think they move the ball a whole lot here on Tennessee.
Well, I'll tell you right now, just look at the calendar. Who's going to be the guy here. It's going to be James White. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it happens every year. White will be the focal point of this. I hope Tennessee, just goes out of their way. They play man coverage, everybody, and a linebacker on James White ain't going to get it done. But he's the guy that always steps up at this time of year. It's an intriguing matchup, bud, and this ain't. It's not like trying to manufacture something to take a shot at New England. But other than the last couple of weeks, now they got it going a little bit. But there for a month, when they finally ended up playing tough teams, Adam, the only way they could get it in the end zone was a trick play. I mean, this offense is flawed.
The offense is flawed, and furthermore, over their last 7 games, they only had 8 takeaways. You think back to early on in the season, they had a ton of takeaways. They were intercepting everybody. They were playing a slew of bad quarterbacks. Late in the year, they started playing better quarterbacks. They didn't generate the same number of takeaways. And furthermore, over those last 7 games, with the 8 takeaways, 5 of them came against the Cincinnati Bengals. In the other 6 games, the Patriots were just 3-3. So if they don't get those turnovers, if Tennessee takes care of the football, the Titans don't have to score points to cover this number. But if they can flip the field, make Tom Brady and company go 80, 85, 87, 90 yards, it's probably not going to happen. So that's why I'm on the under here in this one. I don't know what happens with the side. I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if New England comes out and wins, 24-10, 24-13, something like that, just because
Well,
it feels like a Patriots kind of thing. But
well,
I'm all
when
about the under.
And you know what? I tell you, listen, here's the other thing, and it's the Patriots, and history shows us what they can do. But they won 3 of their biggest games of the year with blocked punts. Their special teams are a freak show, and they may need that to get it done here. They won the game at Buffalo 16-10, had a blocked punt for a touchdown. They blocked a punt against Dallas on about the 10-yard line. They won that game 13-9. And then there was one other game. I think they may have had another block in the KC game. They lost it 23-16. That special teams, honestly, if this is terrifying. Brady, Belichick, this one, that one, Gilmore. Honestly, special teams may be the thing that puts New England over the top in this game. Other than that, current form, Tennessee's on a heater, bud.
They definitely are. They most certainly are. Tannehill's playing very well. Derrick Henry off a huge game. Mike Vrabel seems to be really figuring things out with this team as well. So that's a pretty good thing there for them. Also, defensive coordinator Dean Pease, very familiar with New England from his days with Baltimore. Those teams definitely had some matchups. So that's kind of an interesting thing here, too, with this Tennessee defense. And again, another reason why I'm looking at the under there in that one. We move over to Sunday. We move over to the NFC side of things. And let's see if the New Orleans Saints can get revenge for the Minneapolis Miracle. Saints, 8-point favorite, pretty much market wide. Total up from 47 to 48.5, and even a stray 49 or 2 out there in the market for this one at the Superdome. How are you kind of breaking this one down, Brian?
Well, I'm not going to get off it. Adam, I said it with you several weeks ago, and the last few weeks have been a dog's breakfast for Minnesota. But I'm telling you, I'm taking the points, and I like the over. And Minnesota, and everybody shoots holes at Kirk Cousins. Cousins can't do this on the road. He can't do this under the lights, blah, blah, blah. Well, I got news for you. With Cook in there, and Thielen come back from injury, and Thielen did nothing. Well, the whole offense did nothing. There was no running game. Madison was out too. If Cook is back, and all indications are he's back, with that running game, all of a sudden, Diggs and Thielen and Rudolph become significant weapons, and with play action, Cousins becomes a much better quarterback. It's easy to look at how Minnesota limped in, and New Orleans has been rolling up scores on a lot of people. And I think it's a remarkable accomplishment. New Orleans takes the punch to the gut with the Diggs touchdown 2 years ago, the non-interference call a year ago, and they're right back there with a real opportunity again. But coming in, they kill a Carolina team that ran for the bus. They beat Tennessee without Henry, and Tennessee pushed them hard in that game. All right, they beat the Colts, who had literally had the rug pulled out from under them the week before their season was over. Great game up and down the field with San Francisco. They came up just short there. And then the 2 other games, Atlanta pushed them, and Atlanta killed them. So I think there's a real case to be made for Minnesota that this number is too high, and I can see these 2 teams kind of going up and down the field on each other.
I'll start with this. Like I said, I like Buffalo teased up to +8.5. You get through the 3-7 corridor. There's some pretty good equity in that, especially with a total in the low 40s here. The other component of that teaser for me would be to bring the Saints down from -8 to -2, because I do think they win this football game. And again, you get through that 3-7 corridor. But as far as a straight bet goes, I wrote up a preview for this game over at BangTheBook.com yesterday. I have no idea how this line is 8. I don't know if it's the perception of the Saints at home in the dome with Breeze. I don't know if it's the perception of Kirk Cousins and how he kind of falters and fades in games against big, quality opponents. But you look at these 2 teams, I understand that Minnesota did play a weaker schedule than the Saints, but both of these teams plus 0.6 yards per play in differential, 5.9 yards per play on offense for the Saints, 5.3 yards per play against, 5.8 for the Vikings on offense, 5.2 yards per play against. So they're right there in the same area in terms of yards per play differential, which is a very important statistic out there for a lot of sharp handicappers. Vikings plus 11 in turnover margin, the Saints plus 15. So they're right on par there too. I don't think people realize how good this Kevin Stefanski offense has been for the Vikings. with Thielen only playing 10 games, Diggs banged up week after week. Cook did play 14, but that's still a guy that was kind of banged up. I don't know why this line is 8. I really don't. And the Saints may go out there and club them, and it's possible, but +8 is just too high here, I think.
Listen, and you mentioned that big window where Thielen was out, but there were games during the course of the season when you looked at them and said, man, if they're healthy, look out. I think, and I love Zimmer. I think Zimmer's got a real bite to him. This team's going to be ready. They lost 26-23 at Kansas City. Should have won that game. They won at Dallas. They lost by a touchdown at Seattle. They went on the road. The Chargers murdered them. I don't know if you remember that game. I mean, they just killed the Chargers, 39-10. And then Cook got hurt. And, they lose 23-10 to the Packers, and then they lose in a meaningless game to the Bears. So, in the last, it's been 3 weeks since the Chargers game, but everybody looks at Minnesota, that big test, the game with the Packers. Okay, I get it. They lost the game, but Cook didn't play. I'm looking at what they are when he's there and they're healthy. If I'm New Orleans, man, I'm telling you, you better bring your A game. I really think Minnesota shows up with a monster effort here.
And I think that's what it is, too. I mentioned in my write-up about that Stefanski offense and how they really got going. And Kirk Cousins, 23-4 touchdown interception ratio from week 5 through week 16. Obviously didn't play in week 17. Completed 70% of his passes. And again, like I said, Diggs and Thielen took turns getting hurt. The problem is, in that span from week 5 to week 16, when they did step up, that loss to the Chiefs, which was with Matt Moore, by the way, not Patrick Mahomes, the loss to Seattle, the loss to Green Bay, the 3 best teams that they played, they lost, and Cousins didn't look very good. So I guess there's that,
But again, there is.
Does that mean +8?
I'm telling you, I don't know. This is the era we live in, bud. We've talked about this on this podcast for 2 years now. This was never the case, but based on 1 week to the next, the shift in lines is unfathomable. It just based on a previous result. And, Cousins has looked terrible. Well, they've had no running game. He's a crash test dummy back there. But if Cook starts getting 7 yards a pop, all of a sudden now, New Orleans, they're not pinning their heels back. I'll tell you this. Minnesota gets the lead, look out. If Cousins is one-dimensional, they're toast. He'll get killed. But if Minnesota jumps out of the gate in this game, New Orleans better be careful.
Well, and like I said, again, I think that Bills +8.5, Saints -2, a really good Wong teaser. They're getting through 3 and 7, but the Vikings +8, would be the straight look that I would have here in this one. One more playoff game to talk about, 147-148, Seattle going cross-country on the road to take on Philadelphia, and they'll do so as a favorite, at least for right now, of anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5, total in the 45.5 to 46 range. This is the only total where we're kind of seeing some sharp interest in the under here a little bit. A lot of this has to do with just 2 brutal injury reports here for both of these teams, but what are you thinking about this one, Brian?
Well, bud, I love the first 3 games, and I'm going to sit down and watch this one. I have no idea, and I don't know how anybody with conviction with conviction they know what's going to happen here. Seattle, that was as egregious a defeat as you can possibly suffer. I mean, tell me you're not watching that end of that game against the Niners and your head immediately flashed back to them giving the Super Bowl away. That's insane to me. That they took a delay of game penalty with the ball on the 1-foot line, running Lynch in there, and they're clowning around in a huddle. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not running the ball on that down. They had no timeouts. The ball's at the 1-inch line. You throw it twice, and then if you have to, you let Lynch go up and over the pile on 4th down. And they're in there dicking around with Lynch in the huddle in a play that he was not going to touch the football. It was just so stupid. And then now you're back at the 6 and you throw 3 incomplete passes. You give the game away. You got to play an extra game. You blow the home field. You now got to go cross country. And everybody, oh, Seattle's better than Philly, and Philly's been life and death and ugly winning. You know what? They've been winning close football games. And all of a sudden, you got to be in it to win it, and they're in it, and they got a home game. I don't know how Seattle reacts. That's a punch to the gut, man. I mean, literally, that stupidity at the 1 foot line, seriously, maybe cost them a Super Bowl because they'd had a home game, and then you got a 1-game shot to go to the big dance. And they gave it away. I don't know how they react.
Yeah, I don't know either. I ran this query over at the killersports.com database to see how many road favorites there have been during the wild card weekend. Dating back to the 2003 playoffs, 15 road favorites in the wild card weekend, 11-4 straight up, 7-6-2 against the spread, the under 10-5. But you're talking about road favorites in wild card weekend, generally looking at some low numbers. So these are typically close games where the favorite is 11-4, but again, just 7-6-2 against the spread. So
I can tell you this. I can tell you this, Adam. If Seattle had punched that into the end zone and won that game, San Fran would have been -7 here.
Yeah, the 49ers would have been a big favorite, to say the least. And, that's the thing here is, like you said, I don't know what the psyche is of Seattle. Again, they keep losing guys left and right, too. And, I mean, if you're tailgating for this game in Philadelphia, bring your hands to the tailgate because you might wind up playing for one of these two teams at some point during this game on Sunday, especially if you're an Eagles fan, because, my God, their skill position injury list is a disaster. They lost another offensive lineman last week in Brandon Brooks. That's the problem here. I want to take Philadelphia. I want to take Doug Peterson because the coaching job that this cat has done this year has been off the charts exceptional with all the injuries that they've had. Jim Schwartz, great defensive coordinator.
Bingo.
I think the coaching advantage goes to Philadelphia here.
You know what?
I like Philadelphia. That injury report makes it so hard to take them.
That's what I was going to say next. And all of a sudden, maybe now as we hash it out, maybe I will get involved. Oh, by the way, they played on November 24th, and it was at Philly, and the score was 17-9. And, it's not, this game will be played the same way. You know what? Maybe it will. Honestly, I think maybe the more I'm thinking about it, I would jump in and I would make a play on the under because I think Schwartz will have some things to keep Wilson in check. And Philly's offense is it's kind of a mash unit. And the level of intensity goes up. They're not playing the Giants. They're not playing the Redskins. You know what? Okay, I lied. I'm in. I like the under.
Well, one other thing I will say here, and we kind of try to, we have our narratives about coaches and about who's good and who isn't. And there really aren't a lot of statistics that suggest to us, how much of an impact a coach is having, from a quantifiable standpoint. But the Eagles here, all their injuries at the skill positions, they've been missing linemen. Everyone's been taking a dump on Carson Wentz all year long. This Eagles team, 4th in the NFL in third down conversion rate, 3rd in red zone touchdown percentage. That tells me that they scheme really, really well, that their play design is very strong. That could very well end up being the difference here in this one. So I may end up taking Philadelphia. I'm not in a hurry to go out there and take it. Maybe you find a rogue 3 somewhere, something like that. But I think Doug Peterson's phenomenal, man. He's just very, very good.
I get it. And, I will tell you this. They all do it. Every sport does it. It's going to be plastered on every locker stall all week long in Philly. What would have been apropos is if both Philly and Dallas had lost, on Sunday, and the NFC East would have been more of a punching bag. But they're going to sit there and they're going to play the circle of the wags. Nobody thinks we should be here. Blah, blah, blah. They're going to play that card all week long. And, on a neutral field, whatever, who's the better team, probably no question. But with all the injuries, it's a mash unit. It's not going to shock me one iota if Philly wins this game. But I don't trust them. I don't trust Seattle. The more I'm talking about it, the more I think I trust Schwartz. And, Carroll's, other than some goofy stupidity on the big stage at the last second of games, he always has his guys ready to play. I think there's a level of intensity in this game. I think the defenses rule the day.
All right, so let's chat a little bit of NHL here as we go from the gridiron to the ice, and we'll take a look at this Tuesday night card, which is very, very large. Only one game last night, Ottawa and Pittsburgh. Only one game tomorrow, Nashville and Dallas in the Cotton Bowl, the 2020 Winter Classic, which is supposed to be 60 degrees and a chance of rain for that one, so I'm sure the surface will be in great shape there. But a massive card here on Tuesday. Anything kind of stand out to you about today's card, Brian?
Yeah, one game, big menu, only one game I'm looking at, and I don't know, for the life of me, I don't know what they're thinking here. Toronto and Minnesota, the total 6. This should be, 6.5 should be the floor. I can make an outside case for the game to be 7. The Leafs of late, 5-4 loss to the Rangers, 5-4 win to the Devils, 8-6 win to the Hurricanes. The Leafs are on a heater scoring goals, and they are a travesty in their own end. And Minnesota is not the Minnesota we're accustomed to. This is a team, they play a wider open style than we've ever seen from Minnesota before. And there are games that are track meets. I mean, they won 8-5. I remember that game. They played in Vegas the night before, and they went to Arizona, and they made the total 5.5. I played the over. The final was 8-5. They're kind of an in and outer. But they allow goals. The Leafs are going to get theirs, but the Leafs are an atrocity in their own end. I love the over, and other than that, I'll be sitting there with popcorn tonight. I'm hoping against hope, and the result be damned because the Sabres are, spitting the bit again. But I think they're turning the clock back 20 years. And I can't wait. Now, the stupid refs will probably throw the guy out 5 seconds into the game. But Buffalo's 0-3 against Tampa. But in the 3 games they played, they had Kucherov submarine Sobotka with a cheap shot in Sweden, knee surgery, out for the year. Then the next game in Sweden, they ran Eichel, and Reinhardt came to Eichel's defense. And at some point, you go, Eichel, you got to stick up for yourself. And he did after that. He kind of got the message. But then they played when they came back to the States. And Chernak elbowed Dahlin in the face, got a 2-game suspension, and knocked the kid out for 3 weeks with a concussion. The Sabres signed this guy, Dalton Smith, who no one had ever heard of. He's a fighter who can skate a little bit. But they signed the guy to a one-year, 2-way contract for $700,000 yesterday. And the guy's skating in Buffalo this morning. I'm hoping. I'm a knuckle dragging Neanderthal. Turn the clock back, baby. I'm telling you, this game has brawl written all over it.
Here's a game that I'm looking at tonight, and the odds makers look to have been asleep on this game. Florida and Columbus tonight. Columbus at home hosting Florida. Blue Jackets actually opened a favorite. We got a flipped favorite scenario now with Florida the favorite. They also opened this total 6 with pretty reasonable juice on this one. Jonas Korpisalo, torn meniscus for Columbus. He had been having a phenomenal season, 249 goals against, 913 save percentage, but he tears his meniscus in the shootout. That was a complete disaster at the end of that game for the officials, for Columbus, for really everybody involved. Elvis Merzlikins has not played well at all. This kid's a complete loose cannon. Young guy, didn't want to come over and play in Cleveland in the AHL, so the Blue Jackets had no choice but to roster him. He's played 10 games, hasn't gotten a win. He's given up 27 goals in 475 minutes, 341 goals against, 889 save percentage. Why was Columbus favored, first of all? Why was this total 6? And also, first game of a 4-6 for Florida tonight. I get that Columbus is probably going to try to rally around this kid and give a really, really big effort, but this line was just wrong all the way around.
Well, I do like the over. Both goalies, save percentage is under 900. And Florida, a 5-4 win, and then a 6-5 win their last 2. They can't help but play up tempo. But, what's his name? I'm losing my mind. Tortorella. Tortorella's a nut bar. I'm telling you, everything he said was right. And I think this team is fired up, and I think they play hard. The over makes sense. I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, it could be they could pout that they lose their goalie and they got screwed, or hockey players are funny guys, bud. And Tortorella goes up there sticking up for his own team and fire and ice and cursing the league out, and he's going to get fined and all. I think the team kind of rallies around that. I really do. I kind of like Columbus in the over. I think the over makes complete sense.
I mean, yeah, we kind of talk about that a lot when it comes to the NBA, sort of the superstar subtraction theory, and everybody else kind of steps up a little bit. Also, interesting side note to this game is that, as you mentioned, Florida, Sergei Bobrovsky has not played well. Got that enormous contract, and he's played very poorly here so far for Florida. Well, this is his first game back in Columbus. And
I love it even more. Come on.
The fans were all about Bobrovsky. Obviously, he played very well at times for them. His teammates, maybe not so much. There was some friction last year between Bobrovsky and the rest of the team. Actually got suspended for 2 games because of some of his antics in the locker room after a game. That's really interesting. That's a great side note.
I love it. I'm telling you, it's Columbus. It's Columbus in the over. And I'm telling you, to this day now, I don't know how many times they've gone back. Maybe it's 3 or 4. But when the Leafs go back to Long Island, I mean, they are merciless, those fans, on Tavares. I mean, merciless. And the Islanders, actually, it's been one of the keys to the Islanders when he bailed on them. And you got such a great coach there in Trotz. Those guys rallied around the fact that Tavares wasn't there, and we don't need him. And that's the chant from the fans. I'm telling you, I love it. I love Columbus. I love Columbus in the over now. The more I'm thinking about this, they're going to be so jacked. The fans are going to be on this guy's case. I think it's cool.
One last thing I'll ask you about here with the NHL. I know we're running a little bit long on the hockey side of things here, but the Winter Classic tomorrow. Again, Nashville and Dallas, 12th Winter Classic, and the road team, 8-3 straight up in the Winter Classic. Any thoughts on tomorrow's outdoor game in Dallas?
Yeah, the thoughts are that the NHL blew it. The Winter Classic was a thing. All right. Now it's a hockey game. When you got all these stupid stadium series and all, it's just another hockey game, bud. The Winter Classic was an event. They still do the bells and the whistles and a bad concert between periods. And I always thought, listen, as long as you're alive, play the under in an outdoor game. You never know what the ice is going to be. If it's windy, it's hard to pass. And literally a lot of these games. But the funny thing is, even though it's the case, some of the games have been going over. I always say play the under because to me, in an outdoor game, the way you're going to score goals are on the power play and off faceoffs. Nothing's happening with odd man rushes. They're dump and chase games. There's no flow to it generally, and I always say play the under. But it's funny, a lot of these games now, you're getting the power play goals, and a guy went to draw clean as a whistle, and the guy fires one through a screen from the point. That's actually some overs have actually started to kick in these games. General rule of thumb, play the under in outdoor games. But I just, the league just screwed this up. I mean, there's too many outdoor games. It's just another hockey game.
Yeah, the novelty is definitely gone a little bit from it. And yeah, and you know what, too? A lot of these goals are ugly in these games. Rebounds, loose pucks in the crease, stuff like that. So if those things kind of happen.
There's no 3-on-1 rush, bud. Watch it. It's all dump it in, go get it. And honestly, that's how Dallas plays anyway. Maybe the advantage is to Dallas because it slows Nashville down. Nashville is the team with flow to their game. I apologize if there's Dallas Stars fans that listen to this. What do they care? They're 8 games over 500. But I sit down and I go down the entire list looking at the NHL. Dallas, by a mile, is the most boring team in hockey. Every game. They're just boring. And this game suits their style. It's advantage Dallas because this is the way they play every night.
No, that makes sense. And Nashville's really struggling this season, too. They've had all sorts of different problems going on with them. Some questions about Laviolette's job security, all that kind of stuff. So, Dallas is boring. St. Louis is really boring, too. The difference is they're very, very good at it. So, whatever works for them is fine. But, yeah, it could be a boring Winter Classic here. Updated forecast, 51, chance of rain later on in the game. So maybe the playing surface not too bad, but I'm sure it still won't be great. Speaking of playing surfaces, here's a good one.
By the way, that 51 degrees, does it happen to say wind?
No wind. Minimal wind.
Okay. Because it's as crazy as it sounds, wind is a thing in a hockey game. In those outdoors,
absolutely.
It's hard to pass the puck.
Well, we'll see if wind is a thing here in Kapalua for the Sentry Tournament of Champions, this week's PGA Tour event. 34-man field here. If you won an event last year, you are in this thing or in that early portion of the wraparound series. John Rahm, plus 430. Justin Thomas, 525, off of a phenomenal showing in the President's Cup. Xander Schauffele, 770. Dustin Johnson, plus 900, where really it's just driver, wedge, putt in this tournament because you're going to see scores in the 20 under range. This is one where you can really go out and get it. You like anybody here this weekend at Kapalua?
Yeah. I love this tournament. Just because you're starved to see golf again. Although
I just want to go play on this course. That's all I want.
Yeah, you and me both, bud. Why don't we? Can you talk to the hierarchy? I'm all for that. Why don't we go over and let's do? We'll do a week's worth of podcasts over there. And get it make sponsor at the Plantation Resort there, and we'll do a week's worth of shows over there. All we want is one round of golf, room and board.
That'd be
I'll tell you what, we'll even pay for the flight.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'll meet you halfway. Yeah.
Southwest goes to Maui
yes,
now. I'm good
direct from here now.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, there you go. It's it's snowing outside here, so I'll do anything to go to Hawaii. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, give Ryan a call, man. I'll plant the seed. All right, listen, here's the thing. I can remember sporting events, specific plays, specific day. I don't know what I did 5 minutes ago. And I started looking at this tournament and I'm like, really? I don't know how I didn't realize that Schauffele won this last year. I'm like, what's happened to my brain here? Schauffele won this thing last year. But the bottom line is DJ plays his course good. Justin Thomas is a stud in Hawaii. Watch this tournament, by the way, and it's not going to be the guy that wins the thing, but watch a guy that struggles the first couple of rounds and gets his act together on the weekend, and that's the guy you play at the Sony next week. But there's some price plays in here. Wind is a thing, Adam. First day, I think, is like what I saw, 15 miles an hour. But the final 3 rounds of this tournament, it's looking like steady, sustained 24-mile-an-hour winds, which means there's going to be goofball gusts, too. So you need a wind player, a ball striker. And as crazy as it sounds, Patrick Reed plays this course really well, and all the distractions from the President's Cup and all this other nonsense. But he's won here before. And he gets his caddy back. I don't know if they'll have him in a straitjacket, but I think Patrick Reed shows up in a big way here, and he's 14-1, and there are price plays. Kuchar's won here before, and he's 40-1, but Kuchar's actually a different player now because he does kind of know how to win tournaments again, and he's kind of always there. So I think Kuchar 40-1 is a guy you can take a look at. And then some of the guys nobody knows anything about. Dylan Fratelli's been really good. He's been knocking on the door, 66-1. But the home run play, nobody knows this guy. This Lanto Griffin at 125-1. This guy's been, he got his card on the Korn Ferry Tour. He got a win, and he's been like hovering around the top 10 in every tournament he's played. I think Lanto Griffin is a guy at 125-1 could find himself on the first page of the leaderboard, make a little noise. And if you've got the wherewithal to play a top 5 with a guy that's 125-1, winning it may be a big leap of faith. But this guy would have to be still 30-40-1 to be in the top 5. Watch out for Lanto Griffin.
So what you're saying here is that we need to get someone to put up a prop on whether or not Matt Kuchar will tip his caddy when he wins.
Oh, I think caddies are a big thing. I mean, you will be watching Patrick Reed to make sure the guy doesn't have a taser when he's out there walking around tasing fans. And the thing about Kuchar is the other thing. I mean, when we watch his turn for years, right? Wasn't he's like the spokesman for Hawaii, where he's over there with his family and he's doing all this nonsense and everything. I mean, and they love him over there. And he's actually won on the course before. And Kuchar, by the way, Kuchar is a sneaky good win player because he won here, and in that stretch where he couldn't win to save his life, don't forget, at a windy British Open, he went toe-to-toe in the final round with Jordan Spieth, whatever that was. Was that about 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Yeah, don't sleep on Kuchar.
No, it definitely makes sense. And we'll reconvene on the golf side here for the Sony Open next week. But real quickly here to finish up the show, anything on the January 1st bowl games you're kind of looking at?
Oh, it's amazing how we're flipping around. Let's pop them up.
You're a jack of all trades. I feel like I can do this with you.
I'm a jerk of all trades. New Year's Day. Yes. Okay. Well, see, there goes the number. It's gone. I think Bama laying a touchdown against Michigan. It's weird to see Bama with a couple of losses, but you think they don't have a stone in their shoe that LSU's playing for the title, and Saban's not going to let these guys sleepwalk through anything. And I think this game is all about building towards getting back to the title next year. I think Bama is the side, and the Big Ten has done well, I believe, here in bowl season, but I'm fading a couple of them here. I like Auburn over Minnesota. I think Minnesota's overmatched. Fleck, it was a really nice story until they started playing the tough teams, and boy, Auburn had a great season. I think Auburn is just much better than Minnesota, and I think, the Big Ten has owned the Pac-12, but this Oregon team's defense is pretty good. And, everybody went nuts about Wisconsin because they played a good half against Ohio State. And I give Penn State full marks. That was they thought they were going to the Rose Bowl, but because Wisconsin played a good half before they got boat raced, they put Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. I think Penn State should have been there. I think Oregon can get the best of Wisconsin.
Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. What's going on with those two shows, man?
Well, today is going to be one of the most interesting shows I've ever done. If you got nothing to do, would you listen? So I have a listener.
Sure.
I'm doing Vegas Hockey Hotline today at 1 o'clock, and the Golden Knights are playing at noon. We're going to be singing show tunes today. No, but Sportsbook Radio, Vegas Hockey Hotline, noon to 2, KSHP.com. Golden Knights owner Bill Foley was in the studio last week for the full hour. We have great hockey guests. If you like hockey, if you're a hockey fan, I think you'll love it. In fact, I got a new thing cooking. If people want to listen to it, it's called. You can get it on my Twitter at Brian Blessing, the Hockey Betting Podcast. I'm doing something with our good friend north of the border, Cam Stewart. You can get that on my Twitter at Brian Blessing, and we get this, top odds makers on both sides of the counter. We got you covered with Sportsbook Radio. And as we finish this up, buddy, I'm going to be running out. We'll have videos, Bang the Book, on the 4 wildcard games, kind of dive deeper into what you and I talked about. A lot of the same stuff, but for those that maybe didn't catch the podcast, we'll have those videos there. And we really enjoy doing this stuff for you, but it's been a fun year.
Yeah, it definitely has, and I appreciate all your time and effort here during 2019. You bailed me out a couple of times when I've run out of guests, too, so I really appreciate that, doing the full shows with me here, the longer shows, I should say, on Tuesday. And you know what, just make your hockey show a live betting show today with the Ducks and Golden Knights game. You can throw out some good live betting tips for the listeners out there.
Yeah, by the way, the live betting in hockey, that's a thing, boy. You get a team down 2-0 and you get like 4-1. And the new thing they're throwing out there, which I'm doing a cartwheel on, is these reverse puck lines. If you like a road dog, boy, and you do a reverse puck line, and you're getting 4 plus 450. Been actually stepping into the deep into the pool on that a little bit, and the amazing thing is you only got to win 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 almost to break even. But been hitting those a little bit, and that's the beauty of the era we live in this industry, the offerings, the creativity, and the immediacy of it. There's opportunities. It's funny, Bud. I mean, we got to wrap this up. The thing is, you can sit there and everybody does their own thing, and they have their own way, and there's a lot of ways to get at it. But you can have algorithms and numbers and power ratings, and I'm telling you, to me, it's still the greatest gift that we have when we do this are the 2 eyes in your skull. Watch the games.
Definitely goes a long way, and we've gone a long way here on this show today with Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. KSHP.com is the website. You can follow Brian on Twitter at Brian Blessing, and as he mentioned, some free pick videos coming up here for the NFL playoff games over on our Bang the Book YouTube page. Brian, appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much for everything this year. Happy New Year to you and yours, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Happy New Year, buddy, and you and all the listeners.
There you go. There's Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline, KSHP.com, at Brian Blessing on Twitter. No show tomorrow with the New Year's Day holiday. We'll be back on Thursday with Brad Powers from BradPowersSports.com. We'll get his thoughts on the NFL playoffs, also talk about the remaining bowl games, and some early thoughts on the national championship. Friday, Brent from DSI Sportsbook will join me. Not sure what I'll do for the first segment, but I'm sure I'll figure something out. That'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a happy New Year. Stay safe tonight, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.